Alright, thanks for stopping by. I'm your Jake of all trades. It's a new era. I've actually written down some notes. I recently have come into a couple of GameSir controllers for my Android phone that I like to use for emulation. I got them without paying any money. I got them from the Amazon Vine program. I write reviews on these products. They're honest reviews. No one's paid me anything. So, what do I have? I got the GameSir X3. It is the USB-C version. I believe there's a Lightning version as well. It has two different expanders on it. It's got active cooling, which is powered by a USB-C port. And then it's got pass-through charging through USB-C. So you need two USB-C cables if you want the full benefits of this thing. The triggers are clicky, they are not analog. It's got the ABXY Xbox layout. The D-pad is, honestly, I'm not sure exactly what style you would call that. I don't know if maybe that was the way they did it on a certain Xbox controller. The GameSir X3 comes in a nice kind of nylon wrapped hardshell case, as does the X2 Pro. It comes with a USB-A to USB-C cable, I guess, so you can either charge it or run the active cooling. There's also a little Resident Evil Umbrella Corporation looking D-pad cap, and there are I don't know if that's the longer or shorter joystick. There's a pair of those. These are the convex little rubber joystick caps. I use the concave ones on this one. Without the cap covers, they're really pretty small and kind of weird. And I think I like the concave ones the best. And you've got home button, dedicated screenshot button, start, select, shoulder buttons. Everything is very tactile and clicky on these, and it's bulky, it's big. It's one of those things that I would recommend for a backpack. It's not exactly pocketable. Right after I got that, I found that they had the GameSir X2 Pro available, so I ordered that one partially because I like the smaller profile. Here is your comparison, if you can really see that very well. This one does not have the active cooling, which, since you need to have a USB-C cable to turn on the active cooling and to power the fan there, the purpose of emulating on your phone is to have it very portable, and to do pass-through charging and to turn on the active cooling, you need to have two USB-C cables hooked up to this thing, you know, to get the full benefit of it all. Do your gaming on your computer if you're going to do that. Samsung phones in particular are bad about throttling performance when your device heats up, so the active cooling is going to be pretty valuable. And I know a lot of people probably have their reasons that emulating on a portable device that's plugged into the wall is the way they do it. You know, I mean, we all make our sacrifices. Anyway, on to the X2 Pro. This is the Xbox edition, and the black one became available after I got this one. I wanted the black one. Got your Xbox button, which, as far as I know, functions exactly as the home button does on the X3. But I guess if you're using Xbox Game Pass, maybe there's a little extra functionality there. Your screenshot button. It's got a more Nintendo-y, however clicky, D-pad. This one I did use the convex caps. And it also has the colored ABXY buttons. Again, these are my first GameSir controllers. They've moved the USB-C adapter, which on both of these, it's pretty convenient if you can see that. It wiggles there so as not to stress out or break or anything. I thought that was a very thoughtful design. This one only expands from one side. Yeah, but on previous models, I think the USB-C connector was on the left side, and I don't know anybody that rotates their phone that way. So, and I don't know if there are devices that might not be willing to rotate in that direction. This one does feature analog triggers. Everything else is clicky. I'll do a clickiness test of the D-pad. So it doesn't have that mechanical keyboard click that some people find so satisfying. Not the same way that the X3 does. But it's clicky, it's tactile. There's probably information on whether this is rubber membranes, conductive rubber, I think they call it, as opposed to something else. Don't know all the technical terms. Somebody's going to have that information. The buttons also clicky, but not that same mechanical keyboard clickiness. If being discreet or silent is your thing, then I would recommend the X2 Pro over the X3. You know, also it's got the M1 and M2 buttons on the back. Thanks to the Retro Game Core emulation guide, I've started using these as hotkeys for quick save and quick load on my AYN Odin Lite. I set up RetroArch or RetroArch, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And I went in and did the same as on the Odin Lite to use those back buttons for hotkeys. And as soon as I did, and this is using the Play Store version at first, as soon as I set it up for hotkeys, the right D-pad, if you hold it down, it wouldn't continually move Mario to the right, or, you know, whatever. Even in the RetroArch menus, you know, you hold left and it keeps scrolling through the XMB interface, but if you hold to the right, it just clicks over once. When I was playing Super Mario Brothers, Mario would take a single step to the right, and I'd be holding down the D-pad. And I thought, well, this controller sucks. And so I tried, again, I like black, and this 8-bit do controller has analog triggers, so I got it, even though everybody hated it because you can't connect to everything with it. I think it's really Android only. But I digress. The problem carried over. I did install the GameSir app so I could do firmware updates and, you know, gamepad testing and everything with the GameSir controllers. And in that app, from there, you can launch your emulators and your native Android games. But RetroArch did not even appear. I don't think RetroArch really supports the GameSir gamepads. I feel like everything played fine until I enabled the hotkeys. So I've been trying to figure out what the problem is, and as I said before, I started with the Play Store version of RetroArch, and then I did what I'd been meaning to do, and I went and got the nightly edition of RetroArch from the website. And the same thing happened again when I enabled hotkeys. So if you're following, to sum this up, these GameSir controllers will work with RetroArch until you enable hotkeys. I don't know what the problem is there. If you go for the GameSir controllers, just don't enable hotkey. Don't enable the M2 buttons on the back of the GameSir X2 Pro and use those as hotkeys. They will work in Aether SX2 for PlayStation 2 emulation. Everything else that I've used the GameSir controllers for, every other emulator, standalone emulators, they've worked great. They work with Game Pass, they work with GeForce Now, they worked with Steam Link. Everything's been fine. Oh, another thing about the X2 Pro is I was getting really frustrated in Aether SX2 because I found a way to transfer the memory card from my Odin Lite to my phone, you know, so I could continue the project. If for some reason I left the Odin Lite at home and happened to have, you know, the GameSir controller with me, I could totally play Metal Gear Solid 2 on my phone. And I didn't know that you have to enable the M1 and M2 buttons. That's something that I learned from the GameSir app. And to do that, you hold the start and select buttons at the same time, as well as, I don't know, the left and right bumpers, I think. And then maybe there's a vibration or something flashes to let you know that the M buttons on the back have been enabled. I'm telling you this because nobody told me that, and I thought I had the hotkeys set up the same way that I have on the Odin Lite. And so every time I went to go into first-person view with, you know, with my gun to hold somebody up to get the dog tags in Metal Gear Solid 2, it would save the state. And I thought, oh, well, I wasn't hitting the hotkey button. They weren't enabled. I had set the save state hotkey to the exact same button that puts you in first-person mode. And also, I don't know if I use the L1, LB, left bumper all that often in the game, but that would trigger the load state. And so I was constantly saving and loading states without making any progress, or saving states in parts where I was not intending to save them. It was a bad setup. So, you know, just know what you're doing, I guess is what I'm saying, or you're going to mess up your game saves. There are things about the app that make me a little paranoid. My phone said that GameSir currently had File Downloader up and running. Now, it did have to update the firmware, so it had to download a file and install that on my phone. But after it was done, I didn't like the fact that File Downloader was still running. That made me paranoid. I've heard things about their Egg-NS Nintendo Switch emulator allegedly having malware. I don't know. I heard that, you know, secondhand through Mr. Sujano, who probably got it secondhand from somewhere else. I don't know. But the hardware is good, with the asterisk that it seems to break RetroArch. It's hard to say for sure which one I like better. You know, they both have the pass-through charging over USB-C, so that's great. Neither of them are Bluetooth. With a Bluetooth connection, there is input latency, though small as it may be. This thing has not let me down. I have not had an 8-bit do controller particularly let me down as far as I know. There's never been really bad input latency. But with a direct connection, there is virtually no input latency, so I like the idea of the direct connection, the pass-through charging. The active cooling does seem like a great idea, especially I use a Samsung phone. I use a Samsung phone with a terrible battery, which I would also like to point out that the Z Flip 3 does have weird dimensions, and both of these controllers, and it can be a little tricky getting it in, they expand far enough to accommodate the Z Flip 3. There's a little overlap on the top and bottom there, but it holds it, you know, pretty securely. Overall, yes, I like them. I recommend them. I want to find a workaround for hotkeys in RetroArch. This would probably sooner be my go-to for phone gaming, to be honest. But also the fatness of it does feel pretty good in the hand on the X3. I don't know. It's up to you. It's up to you. Whatever you decide is more important to you. Maybe something I've told you has crossed one off your list, in which case I would call that a win, because I try to be helpful and informative. That's my goal here. So there you go. Thanks for stopping by. I'm your Jake of all trades. Enjoy.